You've flown a lot of passengers during Kumbh. How many passengers did Akasa fly to Prayagraj directly and indirectly in and around Mahakumbh in that 1 month window?
Boy, Nikunj, I have not counted, but all I can tell you is that we at Akasa, and I think the airline industry, hope we have a Mahakumbh every month of every year. I mean, it was an amazing event for the country and the nation. It was fantastic for airlines. We added a lot of extra sections. And by the way, it's not just Prayagraj that saw an uptick, but it's, Varanasi, Lucknow, Ayodhya, all of UP. In fact, our Gorakhpur flights also, even though they're geographically far away, all of them saw this amazing uptick. And everybody you talk to has been to Mahakumbh. So it was nothing short of a miracle.
Okay, yeah. But just give me a sense so that, our team can flash it and I can relate to it, that how many Kumbh flights directly and indirectly were planned in that 40-day period? Just give me an extent.
Yeah, so 20 round trips a day, so 1,000.
1,000
something
flights
like that, yeah.
is what Akasa did in that 1 month.
Something like that.
An average ticket?
Average ticket was affordable. Let's leave it at that.
Okay, so what that did for the airline industry, not for just Akasa. I mean, what this Mahakumbh has done for the airline industry. Are we in for a bumper quarter for the airline industry because of Mahakumbh?
I think yes. So I think February for most airlines would have probably been even better than a December. And December is the peak of the peak months, for example, or May. So it was a spectacular February. But as excited as we are in terms of what February and January has done as a result of Mahakumbh, obviously at Akasa we're not a 1 quarter airline, right? I mean we're planning our airline for the next 3, 5, 8 years, and so as excited as we are, we're already moved on to how the second quarter and the third quarter and the fourth quarter, and that's where our focus is on.
The airline industry globally is considered to be a brutal industry. It's a tough industry, too much of competition. Every 2-3 years, somebody goes up, somebody goes down, and very few stay up. But India, it's very different. Akasa is doing exceedingly well. SpiceJet has managed to bounce back. India has got an enviable number. Air India is limping back into normalcy. Why is the Indian aviation sector right now growing and flying?
Yeah. So let's separate the growth from the stability, because these are two very, the growth is very much a feature of India Inc. I mean, everything in India will grow with the economy, right? And so growth is a given in India, and we'll be growing for the next, 30 years. India is also in its nascent stage as far as aviation is concerned, and that's part of the reason why you have growth. Now, stability is altogether different. I think the stability that you're going to see over the next 5 to 7 years is just as a result of a maturing industry here in India, right? I think that, a lot of the ups and downs are a thing of the past. And if you look at, let's say, the US industry, they had 9 airlines that were profitable for an entire decade. So for the 10 years preceding COVID, there were 9 airlines that were profitable for 10 years in a row.
In US?
In the US.
Okay.
And because, a lot of the bankruptcies that we here have had in India are mirroring what happened in other parts of the world. And I think as you look at the maturity that you're going to see, I think we're going to have sort of this golden age of aviation stability in India here for the next 10 years. Okay. And that's very exciting to be part of.
So let's look at some numbers here. India's GDP growth 6%. You added a normal GDP, that's another 5, that makes it 12. Can I say, because the airline industry is nascent, 15 to 18% CAGR growth for next 3 to 5 years is given?
I wouldn't say given, but an expectation of 15% plus or minus, I think is a very reasonable expectation in line with the economic growth and the nascency of the industry, absolutely.
And since you have a small base, can I add a couple of percentage points here and say for Akasa 25% plus is a probability?
I would say at least.
Okay.
Given our small base, at least. I mean, we grew 300% the previous financial year, over 50%. This financial year, you're going to see numbers like that for the next couple of years. So I would say at least that, given our small base.
But if I could just throw in some numbers, and again, this is something which we know is in public domain, that you have 27 aircrafts right now.
Yes.
You ordered 100.
We've ordered another 199, almost 200 more.
Oh, I lost count after 100.
Correct.
So that's
correct.
So that's about 226 aircrafts coming in next 5 years?
Yes, well, we've got 27, so 199 coming in the next 7 years.
7 years.
Yeah.
How will that get added up every year? Is there a calendar you can share with us?
It's not a calendar, but I'll say a couple of things just to give you a sense that our expectation is that as we cross 2030, Akasa will be one of the 30 largest airlines in the world by aircraft count. Just to give you a picture,
In the world?
In the world.
Which is the largest airline in the world?
Today it's United.
How many
by aircraft? They've
they
got
have?
over 1,000 aircraft.
Okay.
Right? So, look, we don't hope of getting there, but in the next 5 to 7 years, Akasa will be one of the 30 largest airlines in the world by aircraft count. Just to give you a sense of not just Akasa, but the excitement around aviation in India as a whole. So that gives you a sense of, the aircraft delivery. While I can't give you a year-by-year number, I can tell you that the growth is going to be pretty spectacular and is going to put us in the map in terms of global airline sizes.
For a market like India, which is still very sensitive to pricing, and the air travel is acceptable as long as it is affordable.
Correct.
What is the size of aircrafts that Indian markets can digest? Could it be 2,000? Could it be 2,500? What's that number at which you would say it's healthy for the industry and it is great for the passenger?
Yeah, so I think it's much more than that.
Okay.
Let me give you a sense that 5 years ago, China had 3,500 commercial aircraft, right? 5 or 6 years ago.
Okay.
5 or 6 years ago, the US had 7,500 commercial aircraft, right? And so for us, hovering, short of 1,000, so we have maybe 700-800. I think that number, given the geographical size of the country and the 1.4 billion population, there's no reason why we can't work our way up to 6,000-7,000 aircraft, which is what the US had, several years ago. So it will take some time. It's not in the next 3 to 5 years that we're going to see 6,000 or 7,000 aircraft. But as a country, for us to have 6,000 or 7,000 commercial aircraft over the course of the next 20 or 30 years is not out of the realm of possibility.
Okay, 20 years is really, really long time.
Yeah.
Right. So let's make it 5. In next 5 years, how many aircrafts Indian industry
I think
can digest?
1,500.
1,500 aircrafts.
In the next 5 to 7 years.
The total aircraft?
Yes.
Okay, so 1,500
We've got 800, we'll double easily.
Okay. And the markets can digest it?
Absolutely.
Now, Akasa started with 0% market share because you've just got incubated,
Correct.
not even 5 years. If you will have 250 aircrafts in the course of next 5 to 7 years, assuming that we would have about 1,500 to 1,800 aircraft, sir, let's look at mathematics here. You're looking at you would have 15 to 20% market share in 5 years?
5 to 7,
Yes.
I think that's entirely possible.
5 to 7% for an airline which did not exist.
5 to 7 years
from now.
with mid-double digit, 15% market share, sure. I think that's entirely possible. But I will tell you something. One is we're not focused on market share. Market share is sort of inevitable because of our small base and our aircraft order that is linked to the growth that India is seeing. So market share is an inevitability. I will tell you what we're focused on is the consumer experience. We're focused on, steady, reliable, predictable growth for us, our shareholders, and most importantly, the consumers. We take great pride in our on-time performance. We believe we're India's most on-time airline. Since the DGCA started, tracking our on-time performance, we believe that our consumer experience and the feedback that we're getting is second to none. I would hate for us to be put into a certain category of carriers. I would say if you compare our consumer experience to any airline in India, I would say we're right up there. And so those are the things that we take great pride in. Market share will just come over time.
Okay.